Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Vibration Translation Podcast. I'm glad to have you here. Today is Mystical Translation Series, episode number 4. All right, so we're going to be talking about why others' perceptions of you don't have to matter anymore. All right. So I've got a lot of information that came through about this one, just in literally one written flow of information. So that's my inspo for talking about it today. So let's get started. Let's see how we're gonna flow today. I got a coffee today, if anybody's wondering, with some honey. Homemade espresso. The best kind, in my opinion. Thing is, people's perceptions of you mattered a whole lot when you were a kid. Your parents had to want to keep you alive. Of course, you weren't strong enough to stand on your own back then, so they had to like you enough to raise you. And it's natural enough for a child to have adaptive mechanisms where, oh, this kind of expression is allowed, that's not allowed, this I can't be perceived in this way. Or else I'm literally going to be ostracized and I'm literally not going to survive. So most, if not all of us, molded ourselves in one way or another to meet approval. And then we internalize that approval. So we think approval equals survival. Approval equals connection to others. And all the good feelings that come with connection. Like, of course I want connection. So, it's not a big surprise that we collectively care so much about others' perceptions of us. It's wired into us as a survival mechanism. In the olden days when we were in the tribes, like, if we were ostracized from the tribe or the group that we were in, the chances of survival were close to none, right? Nowadays, you can have no friends and you can be fine. You know what I mean? So we're living in very different times. Of course, I cannot ignore that connection is still a very important need for humans. But the thing is, a prerequisite to authentic connection is authenticity, right? Prerequisite to authentic connection is authenticity, not approval. Approval connection, a connection formed based off of, another person approves of me and wanting to mold yourself to a form so that the other person approves of you, is called the people-pleasing tendency, which is, wildfire out in these parts. And if we're living out of that people-pleasing tendency and that approval-based tendency of wanting to be approved by others, that means we are basically relying on other people to shape us. And when we allow other people to shape us, we'll be shaped into what others want us to be, not what we authentically actually want to be. It'll be not who we actually are. We'll be operated from a point of disconnection from our source of life, our energy, right? And our cup will be molded so that we are only getting it filled from external validation. Right? It'll be molded so that it's facing outward, it's waiting, it's begging, it's like, hey, you approve of me? Do you approve of me? I'm gonna shape myself into whatever form the cup needs to be so that you can approve of me. And that's how I'll get filled, and that's how I'll get my life source. And in this kind of way, we are completely forgetting that we have the power to grant ourselves all the validation we'd ever need. And validation from self is the most important and most transformative kind of validation, right? Because you can have an external source telling you every single piece of validation that you'd ever want in your life, right? All you would want to hear is this kind of validation. So the external cup is being so filled. But then slowly it gets drained. It gets drained and drained and drained. And it's needing that cycle of external validation, because the only person that can really give yourself that transformative, that real, that true validation is yourself. That's the only validation, right, you are ever seeking. Like, to give yourself that, like, oh my gosh, wow, like, yeah, like, I see myself. Really, it's a I see myself we are looking for. It's an I see. It's an I see you. It's an hey, I see you doing all this. Internally recognizing within yourself that self-recognition is so incredibly potent because you are the only one that transforms your own life. You're the only agent that can actually transform your own life. Based on a different approach you take to yourself and based on validating what you need validated for yourself. What that child inside you needs validated for itself. And that is marked by a connection to your own source, your own higher self, your universal connection, right? That's marked by all of those things. And when it comes to others' perceptions of you, so many people are living with anxiety. And I would say 99% of us are living with at least a degree of social anxiety. Of what if this, what if that, what if this goes wrong, what if that goes wrong, right? When we look at fear pertaining to the fight or flight mechanism, many things that incite the fight or flight mechanism to turn on nowadays are not really rational, but rather trauma-based, right? They're an indication of where your trauma is, where you feel like you're going to die as if a bear is chasing you, but there's no bear chasing you. You're just on the stage, so afraid that you're going to get booed. Or you do get booed on stage, but like what? You're not going to actually die. It's not actually rational to be so afraid and like you need to run and hide because somebody's out to get you. Nobody's out to get you. According to the National Social Anxiety Center, fear of public speaking is the most popular phobia, even more popular than fear of death. All right, so people would rather die than go and speak out in front of a large audience of people. Because that fear is so strong. They just don't want to feel the fear of that. False evidence appearing real. Illusionary obstacle. It's a dragon, an illusionary dragon. I have this little quote on a dime. It says, "Life is full of illusionary obstacles." Because anxiety is based in thoughts about the future and all the pathways of how things could go wrong and what you could do and what this and what that. And the thing is, it's called anxiety because you're not actually in the involvement of the thing you're having anxiety about. You can't actually do anything. You can't actually do anything about it in that moment because you're not involved in the subject, which you are stressing so much about. And so the stress subsides when you actually put yourself in front of something and start doing it because you can actually do something about it. So I say the constant social or generalized anxiety is simply not worth it. Like, I mean, you choose, right? Like, would you rather live in essentially a constant state of anxiety to some degree? And most of our population's anxiety is not to a low degree. Most of it is very visible. On the surface, just below the surface, you know, like you're really just walking on eggshells with like the entire human population, right? Some degree or another. Or the other option is to not care about what other people think of you and be free of all that self-adjustment behavior, knowing that you are living according to, your own values. And as long as they're based on some kind of love and kindness and just general common sense care for other people's well-being, what's the matter? What's the problem there? So here's a quick definition of self-adjustment behavior. It's when you are trying to see what is okay and allowed for you to be like based on how other people are and how they are reacting to you. So it's this constant observation of your environment and what is okay or preferable within that environment to behave as. Now again, may I remind you, you can drop all this self-adjustment behavior as long as you're not actually harming anyone, aka just acting out of malice and out of ignorance of other people's well-being. And well-being of other people doesn't mean other people being, so happy and ecstatic because you made them so happy and ecstatic. And I talk about the self-adjustment behavior because I feel like we treat so many of our natural ways of expressing ourselves as something that could be potentially be seen as bad or wrong or out of place in the confines of whatever societal structure or implied social rules there are. So over time, our natural expression became contained and we became essentially domesticated. We became domesticated. Sheep following the herd of trend and what is cool to express and be like. And I see this, I have a younger sister that is growing up in the generation that grows up with phones and TikTok and YouTube and just constant, looking at what's cool and then just trying to imitate it and imitate it. And I see her just being molded by trends of my generation. And it's very fascinating to see. And young children have that mirroring principle, those mirroring neurons where they copy everything you do and they learn from the parents and they imitate and they mimic because they're learning how to be, right, based off of their parents. But the thing is, like, that mirroring nature, it continues on throughout life because we are sold these ideas, right? And I've talked about this before, of success being popularity, fame, lots of money, lots of people seeing you and appreciating you. So instead of taking the route of authentically being ourselves, we are predisposed to learning, some psychology tricks or some ways of getting around so we can get to the top and manipulate other people to be seen in a certain light and acting for wanting to be perceived a certain way as our end goal, because that's what we see as success, that we are perceived in a certain way by like so many people. And then we see so many celebrities, Jim Carrey and what's his name? The guy that's saying, I took a pill in Ibiza. Mike Posner. Mike Posner literally, like, he was on a whole podcast show talking about how he got all those things, that the story of the person getting all the things, all the fame, all the money, all the girls, all the everything, and then just being like, I was feeling the worst I have ever felt on the inside. Because it's not about any of those things. And it's like we're told the story all the time, but sometimes a person needs to experience that for themselves, to really be able to reflect. And I'm not going to lie to y'all. If I'm really observing my psyche, I have been doing the same damn thing. I've been doing the same damn thing because I was programmed with the same damn story of success looks like this, this, and this. And if you don't reach this, this, and this, then you have nothing to show for yourself. And therefore you're nothing, you're a failure in this society. So I've been waking based off of that programming. And so I've been therefore wanting to subconsciously or very consciously or denying also that I'm doing that. Doing those things, going out and making things to be perceived a certain way rather than for the damn process of it all and for the enjoyment of the process of it all. Here, Oprah Winfrey wrote a book, What I Know for Sure. This book actually made me realize how like spiritual and tapped in Oprah is, because I just assume people that are like famous on TV were not spiritual and tapped in. Like here I am being humbled, you know what I mean? She says on page 126, what I know for sure, only when you make that process your goal can your dream life follow. And a quote from her about what a miracle is from page 135. It's the sound of the birds and their individual songs and the moments when I wonder, are they singing to each other, to themselves, or just to be heard? The reason why there is remaining a void after all external cup validation has been filled is because the joy of the process and the realization of each miracle of every single moment has been overlooked. That's what I believe, right? Oh my gosh. A mantis just fell on a spider web on my window. And it's looking at me. It's a praying mantis. Wow. had one of those on my ayahuasca trip. Let me see if I can show you. If you're watching on video. It's freaking incredible. It'd just be looking at me right now. Oh my gosh, I got stuck in the spider web on my window. That's crazy. Mission save praying mantis accomplished. Dude, I was so nervous it was gonna jump on me, but we did it. And now it's looking at me. Oh my gosh. Yo, dude, what's up? I'm glad you joined today. Now, I would call that a pretty cool miracle that just happened because I don't get to see such big praying mantises fall into spider webs, not be able to get out, and then be able to actually help them out. I would call that a miracle. So I was talking about the void, right? And from my perspective, that it happens because we don't fall in love with the present moment. And it's because we remain fragmented in a state where we have forgotten and have accepted the separation of ourselves, of the dream, and of the all. There's you and your dream, and there's no separation from it. Like it already became, right? Time is not really linear. We only experience it as such. We're experiencing we are experiencing the whole journey of the thing. And it's like all that you wished and all that you have asked for has already happened. And we are experiencing the process that we may delight in it. We are experiencing it. We are literally like, imagine just as being in water with the entire universe, and we're taking this swim with the universe, with our dreams, with our soul, to be able to delight in it, in the process. Because if we're working our entire life to achieve a certain, for example, appearance, well, the thing is that that's going to fade away. If we're working our entire life just for a moment of recognition, the thing is that's going to fall away. And then the thing is we're going to die as these characters embodied right now. There's this beautiful mantra called the Mahamrityunjana mantra. And I love its vibration. Sadhguru says you don't need... I've been listening to some Sadhguru videos recently, and he says that you don't need the meaning of the thing. It's really about the sound and the vibration and the really like doing it to really experience the sound of it and become immersive in it, not just for the achievement of some result of it because of some meaning of it. But essentially the meaning of that mantra is to help you overcome the fear of death, plus some other things, right? But I just wanted to mention that because when we are in very like fragmented, existentially dreadful states, being able to focus the mind and not have it go off into a million different directions of hell and torture can be incredibly helpful. Mantras are very helpful focusing. Just a side note here. These videos are a flow. And so, may I say again, others' perceptions of you don't have to matter anymore. As a child they did, but they don't have to matter anymore. That's unless you allow them to. Unless you permit them to matter within your perception, thus seep into your experience. Are they going to be mattering? Well, that depends on what you allow inside your perception. Does it matter? That's your perception. There you go. Are you going to put meaning on it or not? You're the source of meaning within your life. You are the one which creates meaning within your life. You decide if they matter. Now the thing is, it's rational to allow helpful perceptions inside, right? Either perceptions of you or simply different perspectives on a topic. But the thing is, it's use discernment. How to use discernment. Simple thing you can ask is this serving my soul? You can practice it right now. Ask yourself, is whatever information I'm giving you here, is this serving my soul? There might be, like, let's say 60% of this information is like a yes for you and like 40% is like a no, and that's fine. Great. Have your own mind. Have your own perspective. And discernment comes of being honest with yourself. Test it out on the perspectives I'm giving you here. What are you feeding your mind? Have a discernment of perception. Be mindful, especially what you are continuously filling your mind with. And so I'll end you with this. Encouraging this question: is this serving my soul? Ask yourself throughout your day. Ask yourself when encountering others people's perceptions and your own perceptions and perspectives of life. Is this serving my soul to think in this way? And soul here represents who you really are, your dreams and visions. Is this serving me? Is this serving my vision? Is this serving my dream? Right? And if it's not, then it's like, let's clear that away, because we have something else coming in. All right, I'll leave you with that. Thank you so much for tuning in, and see you in another episode.